Have you ever felt like your heart was living in one city and the rest of you was stuck in another? That ache, that constant pull, that feeling of your world being stretched thin across time zones. It's a reality for so many navigating what might be one of modern love's biggest tests, the long-distance relationship. We're talking about more than just miles. We're talking about the silent battles fought with Wi-Fi signals and the emotional gaps that can feel wider than any ocean. Tonight, we're unraveling the threads of intimacy and trust when they're under the ultimate strain. Welcome to Love Threads. Ever feel like modern love is less a romantic ideal and more a complex algorithm, constantly recalculating as you navigate endless data points? Like you're caught in a perpetual loop of choices, trying to find a connection that actually sticks in a world buzzing with alternatives. This is where we dive in. At Love Threads, we don't just talk about relationships, we deconstruct them. We blend authentic, grounded insights with robust, evidence-based psychology, giving you the real intelligence on why we connect, why we sometimes misstep, and how to truly thrive when love feels like a constantly shifting landscape. Tonight, we're cutting through the digital noise to unravel a dilemma that grips countless hearts: the long-distance dilemma. Have you ever found yourself in a relationship where the miles feel like a third, invisible partner, constantly challenging your connection? You yearn for intimacy, for shared moments, for that effortless presence, yet you're separated by time zones and thousands of miles. It's a profound disconnect between shared commitment and geographical reality, a powerful current where the desire for closeness meets the stark challenge of physical absence. We're here to strip away the surface-level anxieties, to go deep into the psychological roots, internal mechanisms, and profound impact of this relentless pattern. And most importantly, to uncover how to cultivate a more genuine, fulfilling approach to love, no matter the distance. This central dilemma focuses on how couples, despite genuine commitment and affection, struggle to maintain intimacy and build unshakable trust when separated by significant geographical distances. It's a paradox of modern love. The world feels smaller with technology, yet the emotional chasms in long-distance relationships can feel wider than ever. We'll embark on a comprehensive journey to understand the hidden mechanisms behind this pattern, delving into how our communication styles are challenged, examining the profound impact of perceived trust breaches, and identifying the subtle yet powerful ways our individual relational needs are amplified by separation. This isn't about judgment, it's about illumination and empowerment. Consider the architects of connection, a couple whose whirlwind romance was tested by a move to another continent. Their daily coffees became scheduled video calls, spontaneous touches replaced by emojis. Despite elaborate virtual dates, conversations turned into interrogations. Who were you with? The unsaid became more potent than the spoken, leading to subtle suspicion. They realized their efforts weren't addressing the underlying anxieties of distance. It was about the quality of emotional connection, not just quantity. Their vibrant intimacy drained, leaving superficiality and a hollow ache. Then there are the navigators of trust, whose long-standing relationship was built on implicit trust. When one relocated for a year, distance turned that implicit trust painfully explicit. A simple misunderstanding, a dead phone, a late return, spiraled into a week-long Cold War. The absence of immediate reassurance allowed fear and suspicion to bloom. Nonverbal cues were missed, and silences became chasms. They realized they needed to actively build trust in this new landscape through uncomfortable, vulnerable conversations and conscious choices to believe in each other, even when doubt crept in. Finally, the resilient souls, who started their relationship knowing a multi-year long-distance phase was inevitable. They committed to intentional daily check-ins, sharing highs and lows, Yet weeks of complete communication blackout tested their limits. Initial fear gave way to loneliness and a creeping sense of abandonment. When contact resumed, it felt awkward. They learned to re-engage and reintegrate after periods of disconnection, acknowledging emotional gaps and actively working to close them. Even the most resilient bonds needed active tending, especially in unpredictable environments. These couples, in their unique struggles, represent the common threads of vulnerability, communication breakdown, and the immense effort required to sustain a bond across miles. They illustrate how distance doesn't just separate bodies, it can create emotional and psychological chasms that must be actively bridged. At the heart of these long-distance struggles lie fundamental psychological principles that become amplified by physical separation. Think of it like this. In close proximity relationships, many of our psychological mechanisms operate in the background, subtly influencing our interactions, like the silent hum of an engine. But with distance, these mechanisms are thrown into the spotlight, demanding conscious attention, much like a warning light on a dashboard. A significant influence on how we connect, especially across distances, stems from the often unconscious reliance on nonverbal cues. In a local relationship, a casual glance, a shared smile, a comforting touch, the subtle shift in body language, or even simply existing in the same physical space convey volumes. We communicate through shared presence, through the unspoken language of proximity and mirroring. This rich tapestry of nonverbal information provides constant, subtle feedback loops, allowing us to gauge emotional states, confirm understanding, and offer immediate reassurance or comfort. When this crucial toolkit of nonverbal communication is stripped away, as it is in a long-distance relationship, communication fundamentally changes, often becoming impoverished. For some, this absence creates a profound void, leading to what can feel like sensory deprivation in a relational context. They might have a relational blueprint that relies heavily on physical reassurance, immediate emotional feedback, or the comfort of a shared physical environment. Without the ability to gauge a partner's emotional state from their posture, the subtle nuances of their facial expressions, or the simple warmth of their presence, every interaction becomes more cognitively demanding and prone to error. A brief text message intended innocently can be misinterpreted as cold, dismissive, or even passive-aggressive. A slight delay in a video call response might be perceived as disinterest rather than a fleeting technical glitch or a moment of distraction. This can lead to a state of hypervigilance, where individuals become overly focused on textual or auditory cues, searching for hidden meanings, and often projecting their own anxieties and fears onto ambiguous messages. The architects of connection found themselves in this trap, where every word was dissected and analyzed, losing the flow and ease of their initial bond. This constant decoding effort is exhausting and detracts from the spontaneous joy of connection. This also profoundly impacts how emotional support is given and received. A simple, "Are you okay?" can feel hollow without the accompanying hug, the comforting presence that signals genuine care, or the ability to physically hold someone's hand. The emotional labor required to explicitly articulate feelings and needs without the shortcuts of nonverbal cues can be immense and often feels inadequate. When one partner is feeling vulnerable, distressed, or simply lonely, and the other is unable to offer immediate physical comfort or even just a shared silent presence, both can feel incredibly frustrated and isolated. The lack of these subtle, constant affirmations of connection can lead to an insidious erosion of intimacy, replacing comfortable familiarity with a pervasive sense of emotional distance, even when words are exchanged. It's like trying to bake a cake with only half the ingredients. You might get something edible, but it won't be the full, rich experience. Intertwined with the challenges of communication is the profound impact on trust. In any relationship, trust is built on consistency, reliability, and transparency. It's nurtured by shared experiences and a sense of predictable presence. In long-distance dynamics, these foundations are constantly tested by the pervasive shadow of uncertainty. This isn't necessarily about overt infidelity, though that can certainly be a concern. It's a deeper, more insidious apprehension about the unknown, about a life unfolding far away that you are not privy to, day in and day out. Our minds, in the absence of complete information, naturally try to fill in the gaps. This is where our inherent human tendency towards cognitive biases comes into play. If we're already feeling insecure, anxious, or have a history of relational insecurity, we're far more likely to interpret ambiguous information in a negative light, a phenomenon known as the negativity bias. A late response isn't just a busy moment, it's a sign of disinterest, a deliberate snub, or worse. A brief, unelaborated answer about plans becomes a cause for suspicion rather than just a quick reply. This can foster a breeding ground for rumination, constant, anxious thoughts looping in the mind about what the partner might be doing, who they might be with, or whether their feelings are truly genuine. The navigators of trust experience this acutely. The simple absence of a phone connection triggered a catastrophic cascade of assumptions. The individual's relational blueprint plays a critical role here. Someone with a history of inconsistent attachment, abandonment, or perceived betrayal in early life might find their anxieties amplified to an unbearable degree by distance. They might engage in constant testing behaviors like frequent checking in, "What are you doing?" demanding detailed reports like, "Who exactly are you with and what are their names?" Or even manufacturing minor conflicts like, "You never cared about my feelings," to gauge their partner's reaction and loyalty. This, paradoxically, can push the partner away, creating the very distance the individual fears, fulfilling their own self-fulfilling prophecy of relational instability. The other side of this coin is when a partner, perhaps with a more avoidant blueprint, struggles to offer the consistent reassurance needed, perceiving such requests as clinginess, a lack of trust in them, or an invasion of their autonomy. This dynamic creates a vicious cycle, where one's efforts to seek reassurance are met with withdrawal, further eroding the fragile edifice of trust. It's a dance of unmet needs, where both partners feel misunderstood and frustrated. True trust in a long-distance relationship becomes an active, conscious choice and a daily reaffirmation, rather than a passive assumption. Our attachment styles, formed in early childhood experiences with caregivers, are essentially our internal blueprints for how we seek and maintain closeness and how we cope with separation. They dictate our comfort with intimacy, our responses to perceived threats, and our strategies for regulating emotion within relationships. In long-distance relationships, these styles aren't just present, they are often magnified, becoming the central, often unconscious, architects of relational dynamics. The inherent insecurity of distance acts as a stressor, bringing these underlying patterns to the forefront. An individual with an anxious attachment style experiences heightened anxiety when separated from their partner. The distance triggers their deepest fears of abandonment, rejection, and unworthiness. They might become preoccupied with the relationship, constantly seeking reassurance. "Do you still love me? Are you thinking of me?" Struggling with intense feelings of jealousy and interpreting any silence, delay, or perceived emotional distance as a sign of impending loss. Their internal narrative might be, "If I'm not constantly connected and reassured, I'll be forgotten or replaced." This can lead to what feels like an insatiable need for contact, overwhelming their partner, leading to arguments and inadvertently creating the very distance they dread, as their partner may pull back from the intensity. Conversely, an individual with an avoidant attachment style finds their ingrained need for independence, self-sufficiency, and emotional distance reinforced by the long-distance setup. They might struggle with deep emotional intimacy, preferring to maintain a certain degree of emotional and physical space even when physically together. In a long-distance context, they might unconsciously or consciously thrive on the geographical space, perhaps even enjoying the reduced demand for emotional closeness and vulnerability. While they might intellectually desire a connection, their system is wired to perceive deep merging or overt emotional demands as a threat to their autonomy and sense of self. This can manifest as less frequent initiation of contact, discomfort with vulnerable conversations, an inability to offer consistent reassurance, and a tendency to withdraw when their partner expresses needs for more closeness or deeper emotional sharing. This often leads to feelings of neglect, resentment, and profound loneliness in the anxious partner. A secure attachment style, while providing a strong foundation of trust and emotional regulation, is also tested by distance. Secure individuals generally trust their partners, can communicate their needs clearly, and can self-soothe when separated. However, even for them, prolonged periods of separation without effective communication strategies and intentional effort can erode the sense of shared reality and intimacy. The challenge for securely attached individuals is not usually about fundamental trust or fear of abandonment, but about the practicalities of maintaining a vibrant, evolving connection when shared daily life experiences are absent. They must consciously work to bridge the gap in shared experience and find ways to co-create meaning and presence across miles, developing new coping mechanisms for the unique stresses of distance. The resilient souls exemplified this. Despite their initial commitment, the sheer duration and nature of the separation forced them to actively relearn how to connect. These amplified attachment dynamics create complex, often unconscious dance patterns that can lead to repeated cycles of pursuit and withdrawal, escalating misunderstanding, and pervasive emotional exhaustion. Understanding your own and your partner's default settings when it comes to connection and separation, particularly under the unique pressures of distance, is paramount to navigating the long-distance relationship successfully. It's a profound journey into the heart of your deepest relational wiring. The distance doesn't create these patterns, but it certainly acts as a powerful magnifying glass, bringing them into sharp, often uncomfortable focus. The journey out of the depths of the long-distance dilemma rarely begins with a sudden dramatic revelation, a lightning bolt of clarity. More often, it's a gradual accumulation of quiet observations, a growing discomfort with recurring outcomes, and sometimes a moment of profound internal honesty that can feel both painful and liberating. It's the moment when the scattered pieces of the puzzle finally begin to form a coherent, albeit sometimes unsettling picture. Imagine a couple, like our architects of connection, caught in the cycle of misinterpretation and amplified anxiety. Perhaps a series of draining arguments over seemingly trivial text messages, or a significant emotional distance emerging after a period of limited contact. Initially, your internal narrative might have been one of external circumstances. They're just not understanding me. The distance is simply too much. It's impossible for anyone. Or, we're just too different to make this work. This external attribution offers a sense of safety, protecting you from the harder truth because it absolves you of any responsibility for the pattern. It's easier to blame the miles than to look within. However, over time, a subtle yet profound shift begins. Perhaps a particularly painful misunderstanding, one that mirrored almost exactly a previous unresolved conflict, sparks a flicker of recognition. A supportive friend, a family member, or even just the quiet reflection after a particularly lonely day might gently point out a recurring theme in your relationship struggles. Or, alone in a quiet moment, a wave of weariness washes over you. The sheer exhaustion of constantly feeling disconnected, the persistent ache of unfulfilled longing for deeper intimacy, and the gnawing suspicion that you might be an unwitting, albeit unconscious, participant in your own relational outcomes. This fatigue often becomes a powerful motivator for change. For many, the initial turning point is simply the realization that the pattern is internal, not just external. It's the moment you stop blaming fate, the distance, or solely your partner, and begin to ask, with genuine curiosity, why do we keep getting stuck in this loop? What is my role in this dynamic? You start to notice the uncomfortable similarities in how arguments escalate, or how you unconsciously pull away just as things get emotionally close. This could look like a moment of searing self-reflection after a promising virtual date feels unexpectedly flat, where you ponder, why did I keep the conversation so superficial, even though I deeply wanted to share more? Why did I instinctively put up a barrier? The question isn't about the other person's actions, but your own subtle retreat or protective impulse. Or perhaps after a period of intense anxiety about your partner's activities in their distant city, a thought arises. Was my constant checking in truly necessary, or was it primarily driven by my own fear and insecurity, amplified by the distance? You might recall similar anxieties in previous long-distance situations. Realizing the common denominator wasn't the external circumstances of each relationship, but your consistent internal reaction. There's also the familiar feeling of immediate, albeit fleeting, relief after a period of reduced contact, which is quickly replaced by profound loneliness and regret, prompting the painful question, did I inadvertently create this emotional distance? Was my desire for space a subconscious way for me to escape the vulnerability and emotional work that was building? This dawning awareness is crucial. It's the shift from a passive victim mindset to one of personal agency, however uncomfortable that agency might feel at first. It's the recognition that while you consciously desire a deep, connected relationship across the miles, something within you is actively, though unconsciously, preventing that connection from deepening in a truly healthy and sustainable way. It's the first step out of the reactive cycle and into a space of conscious choice. Once the pattern is acknowledged as internal, the next and often profoundly emotional layer of realization involves connecting it to the deeper psychological roots. This phase can be intensely challenging as it requires revisiting uncomfortable truths and understanding how past experiences, particularly early relational blueprints and the development of your attachment style, shaped your present behavior. This is where the insights into communication challenges, trust dynamics, and amplified attachment patterns truly resonate on a personal level. You might begin to recall specific childhood moments or dynamics within past significant relationships, perhaps a time when your emotional needs were consistently dismissed, ridiculed, or ignored, planting the seed that vulnerability equals danger. You might realize how this experience compelled you to build an impenetrable wall around your emotions, making it feel unsafe to truly open up to a partner now, especially when they're not physically present to offer immediate, tangible reassurance. This could explain why sharing deep feelings over a video call feels like an immense risk. Or you might recall an early relationship where you felt overwhelmed, smothered, or even lost your sense of self, leading to the subconscious belief that intimacy means losing autonomy. This could explain your intense, almost reflexive need for space, or your tendency to pull back emotionally when a long-distance relationship starts to feel too close or too demanding of your time and energy. You might realize that your self-protective mechanisms, designed to maintain independence, inadvertently push away the very intimacy you crave. There could also be instances where your efforts to gain approval through self-sufficiency and emotional stoicism were rewarded, inadvertently teaching you that showing need or dependence was a sign of weakness or a burden on others. This reinforces the idea that you must always be strong and independent, even in a partnership, making it incredibly difficult to lean on your distant loved one for support or comfort. This process of connecting the dots, oh, that's why I always misinterpret their texts and jump to conclusions. Or, now I understand why I always feel so anxious and demanding when they're busy and can't respond immediately, is the turning point itself. It's no longer just a perplexing, frustrating pattern. It's a logical, albeit unhelpful strategy developed long ago for self-preservation. The emotional realization is key. The recognition that these protective mechanisms, while once necessary for survival or coping, are now actively preventing the very thing you desire most: deep, intimate connection across distance. The discomfort of this realization is often profound, akin to discovering a well-meaning but ultimately harmful habit you've had your entire life. But it's a necessary catalyst for change. It's the moment you truly understand that your unconscious mind has been prioritizing safety and self-protection, even at the cost of genuine connection and profound loneliness. This realization isn't about blaming yourself or your past. It's about gaining clarity, compassion for your own journey, and agency over your future. It's the moment you transition from being a passive recipient of your relational fate to an active participant, capable of conscious choice and intentional action. This understanding empowers you to finally begin the difficult but deeply rewarding work of rewriting your narrative. You now know what you're doing, and more importantly, why. This newfound insight fuels a powerful motivation to break the cycle, recognizing that the continued pain of distance without deep connection outweighs the discomfort of facing your fears and making new choices. The stage is set for transformative action. In our journey through the long-distance dilemma, we've unmasked its subtle manifestations, dissected its deep psychological roots from the erosion of nonverbal cues to the challenges of trust and the amplified impact of our attachment styles, and arrived at the crucial turning point of realization. You now understand what is happening and why. But understanding is only the beginning. Now we move to the transformative phase, the application of strategies. This is where insight translates into action, and the narrative of perpetual emotional distance begins to genuinely shift. This is where you become the active architect of your long-distance love. Breaking free from the emotional challenges of a long-distance relationship is not a passive process. It demands active engagement, courage, and consistent practice. It's about consciously overriding deeply ingrained patterns and building new, healthier ways of relating, specifically designed to thrive despite geographical separation. This phase involves specific, actionable strategies, each building upon the last to foster genuine intimacy. Think of it as constructing a robust bridge, one thread at a time, to span the emotional and physical distance between you and your partner. For a relationship struggling with misinterpretation and emotional distance, this shift needs to be towards intentional, empathetic communication. This means actively counteracting the inherent limitations of digital interaction by bringing conscious awareness and emotional depth to every exchange. 1. Prioritize quality over quantity of contact. Instead of countless brief, superficial texts or hurried calls, schedule dedicated, focused conversations. These are your sacred connection times. Treat them like non-negotiable appointments. During video calls, minimize distractions like other tabs, notifications, or background noise. Make eye contact through the screen. Lean in and give your full, undivided presence. The goal is to create a sense of shared reality and intimate connection, even if it's virtual. This means carving out moments where you are truly present for each other, not just checking a box. 2. Verbalize the unsaid, the missing nonverbals. Since the rich tapestry of nonverbal cues, body language, facial expressions, and physical touch is largely absent, you must consciously verbalize what would otherwise be communicated implicitly. Instead of assuming your partner knows you're listening, explicitly say, "I'm really listening to you right now, and I understand what you're saying." If you're feeling affectionate, say, "I wish I could hug you right now. I'm feeling a lot of love for you," or "I'm smiling so much hearing that." Explicitly state your feelings, intentions, and reactions. This proactive verbalization helps bridge the gap created by the lack of physical presence, leaving less room for misinterpretation. 3. Practice empathetic listening beyond just hearing. Go beyond just hearing the words your partner speaks. Actively listen for the emotions and underlying needs. Ask clarifying questions to ensure mutual understanding, like, "When you said that, did you mean," or "I'm hearing that you're feeling frustrated about X, is that right?" Validate their emotions. "It makes complete sense that you feel lonely right now. I feel that way too sometimes. Paraphrase what you've heard to confirm understanding. So if I'm understanding correctly, you're feeling overwhelmed by your new work schedule and need more predictable downtime. Is that accurate? This ensures both partners feel truly heard, understood, and emotionally seen, which is vital for building intimacy. 4. Use I statements for feelings and needs. Shift from accusatory you statements to owning your own experience. Instead of saying, "You never tell me anything about your day," try, "I feel anxious and a little disconnected when I don't know what you're doing because I have a need to feel more connected to your daily life." This invites collaboration and understanding rather than defensiveness and blame. It frames the issue as your experience and your need rather than a critique of their behavior. 5. Leverage technology creatively for shared experiences. Beyond generic video calls, find innovative ways to do things together. Cook the same meal simultaneously over video, sharing the experience. Watch a movie or TV series while on a call, reacting and discussing as you go. Play online games together. Share screens while browse a new travel destination you hope to visit, planning and dreaming aloud. Even simple things like having virtual co-working sessions, where you're just quietly present on a call working on your own tasks, can foster a sense of shared reality. Send each other audio postcards, short voice notes throughout the day, sharing mundane moments, funny observations, or random thoughts, making your lives feel more intertwined and present. The goal is to create a sense of shared experience, not just shared information. For relationships where trust feels eroded by uncertainty and distance, the focus shifts to consistent, reliable actions and courageous reciprocal vulnerability. Trust is not a static state. It's a dynamic, living entity that needs constant nurturing, especially when stretched across continents. 1. Radical transparency, within reason and reciprocity. This doesn't mean reporting every single thought or every minute detail of your day, but it does mean being open, honest, and proactive about your schedule, your feelings, and your challenges. If you know you'll be unavailable for a significant period, e.g. in a meeting, out with friends, traveling without service, communicate it before it happens, along with an estimated time of return. I'm going to be in a long meeting from 2 to 5 p.m. your time, so I won't be able to respond, but I'll text you as soon as I'm free. This preemptive communication disarms anxiety, prevents negative interpretations, and shows respect. This goes beyond just facts. It's about sharing your internal landscape, your hopes, and your struggles. 2. Follow through on commitments and be dependable. If you say you'll call at a certain time, call. If you promise to send an update, send it. Consistency builds reliability, and reliability builds trust. Each fulfilled promise, no matter how small, is a brick in the wall of trust. Conversely, if you foresee that you can't follow through on a commitment, communicate why immediately and apologize sincerely, offering an alternative. This demonstrates accountability and respect. 3. Address misunderstandings directly and quickly. Don't let perceived slights, ambiguous messages, or unspoken worries fester. If something feels off or if a message causes anxiety, address it with an I statement rather than jumping to conclusions. When your message came across as abrupt, I started to feel worried about us. Can you tell me what was going on? This prevents the mind from creating its own, often negative and frequently inaccurate narratives. Approach these conversations with curiosity and a desire to understand, not to accuse. 4. Embrace reciprocal vulnerability. Share your fears, insecurities, and moments of weakness. When one partner says, "Sometimes I feel incredibly lonely and scared about this distance, and I miss you terribly," and the other responds with empathy, "I understand. I feel that way too sometimes, and it's hard." It creates a profound bond. Vulnerability invites connection and shows a willingness to be seen fully, imperfections and all, building a deeper foundation of trust and psychological safety. It's about letting down your guard and allowing your partner to truly see you, and vice versa. 5. Build shared future experiences as anchors. Actively plan future visits, even if they are far off. Dream aloud about common goals. Discuss what your life together will look like when the distance closes, whether that's moving in together, pursuing new adventures, or starting a family. Having a clear, shared vision for the future provides concrete anchors of hope and powerful reasons to sustain the present efforts. These shared aspirations become a binding force, reminding you both of the purpose behind the current challenges. Once you've identified how your attachment style, and your partner's, is amplified by distance, the strategy involves conscious self-management and proactive mutual support. This requires a deep dive into self-awareness and a compassionate understanding of each other's needs. 1. Communicate your needs and understand their unique needs. If you lean anxious, clearly articulate your need for reassurance without demanding it, recognizing that demands can trigger withdrawal. I find that I feel most connected and secure when we have a quick check-in call before bed. Would that be something we could try consistently? If you lean avoidant, acknowledge your tendency to withdrawal and make a conscious, intentional effort to initiate connection even when it feels overwhelming or unnecessary to you. I know I sometimes pull back when things get intense, but I want you to know it's not about you. I'm going to make a conscious effort to reach out more and share my feelings, even when it feels uncomfortable. The key is to shift from reactive patterns to proactive, respectful requests. 2. Create reconnection rituals for absences. For planned periods of no contact like deployments, busy work trips, or even just a particularly hectic week where deep connection is impossible, discuss and agree on how you'll re-engage afterwards. Acknowledge that it might feel awkward initially, like restarting a conversation. Agree on a specific check-in ritual or a dedicated no-pressure conversation to bridge the gap and share experiences from the time apart. This helps manage expectations, reduces anxiety about the unknown, and creates a sense of predictability amidst the uncertainty. 3. Learn each other's love languages and practice them intentionally. If one person feels loved through words of affirmation, frequent meaningful texts, heartfelt compliments, and sincere expressions of love are crucial. If another thrives on acts of service, sending a care package, ordering their favorite food for delivery, or helping them remotely with a task like organizing a digital file or researching something for them, can be incredibly impactful. If it's quality time, those dedicated, distraction-free video calls are paramount. For physical touch, creative alternatives like sending a weighted blanket or a plush toy they can hug might help. For receiving gifts, thoughtful, small surprises sent through the mail can make a big difference. Understanding these unique preferences ensures your efforts to connect truly land as love rather than being perceived as missed attempts. 5. Nurture robust individual lives. Paradoxically, a strong long-distance relationship thrives when both partners have robust, fulfilling individual lives. Engage in hobbies, maintain strong local friendships, pursue personal passions, and excel in your career. This reduces the immense pressure on your partner to be your entire world, preventing codependency. It also provides you with rich, interesting experiences to share when you do connect, making you a more vibrant and resilient partner. A full, independent life makes you less likely to project all your emotional needs onto the long-distance partner. 6. Practice self-soothing and emotional regulation. For those with anxious patterns, this means developing independent strategies to manage your own anxieties when your partner isn't immediately available. This could involve mindfulness, journaling, connecting deeply with local friends, engaging in fulfilling activities, or practicing meditation. For those with avoidant patterns, it means practicing tolerating emotional intimacy and leaning into discomfort rather than pulling away. This self-regulation is crucial because you cannot outsource your emotional well-being entirely to a distant partner. This application of strategies is a continuous journey, not a static destination. There will be moments of success and moments of struggle, periods of deep connection and moments of frustrating disconnect.
But with each conscious choice to lean into discomfort, to be vulnerable, to actively communicate, and to disrupt old patterns, you are actively rewriting your relational narrative. You are moving closer to the authentic, fulfilling connection you truly desire, proving that the geographical distance is not a permanent barrier. It is a temporary chapter that you have the power to master and imbue with profound meaning.
Resolution and growth, a new chapter of connection across miles. Your journey through the long-distance dilemma is rarely a sudden leap from struggling separation to effortless partnership. Instead, it is a process of incremental growth marked by small, consistent victories and a deepening capacity for authentic connection. The resolution isn't necessarily the immediate end of the distance. It's the profound transformation into individuals who are resilient, self-aware, and capable of sustaining deep love, regardless of temporary proximity. It's about building a relationship that is not just surviving the distance, but genuinely thriving within it, and preparing for an even stronger bond when the distance closes. As you embark on this path of self-discovery, after the crucial turning point of realization, and through the dedicated application of strategies, your internal and external relational landscape begins to shift. The initial steps are often awkward, even uncomfortable. The first time you consciously choose to lean into vulnerability by verbalizing an unsaid emotion instead of assuming it, it feels terrifying. Perhaps you admit a small fear about the future of your relationship to your partner during a video call, instead of deflecting with humor or changing the subject. Or you choose to stay present in a slightly tense virtual conversation about a misunderstanding, instead of creating a dramatic exit or shutting down your webcam. There might be internal panic, a primal desire to revert to old, familiar protective behaviors like becoming defensive, withdrawing, or launching an accusation. But by enduring that discomfort, by consciously choosing a different path, you experience a new outcome. The connection doesn't shatter. Instead, it deepens. The other person might respond with empathy, understanding, or even share a vulnerability of their own, creating a genuine moment of human connection that feels profoundly different from past interactions, a true resonance across the miles. This initial success, however small, becomes a powerful reinforcer. It builds self-efficacy, your belief in your own ability to succeed and navigate the complexities of distant love. With each deliberate choice to act differently, the neural pathways associated with old, unhelpful patterns weaken, and new pathways for healthy, authentic connection begin to strengthen. You are literally rewiring your brain for connection. If you previously struggled with interpreting silence or delayed responses negatively, you might find yourself consciously pausing before spiraling into anxious thoughts. You might decide to send a clarifying, non-demanding message, just checking in, thinking of you, rather than assuming the worst or immediately resorting to accusations. You learn to differentiate between a truly unhealthy dynamic and the discomfort of genuine intimacy that requires you to let go of an idealized, always available fantasy. This often leads to a surprising discovery that human connection, with all its beautiful imperfections, occasional silences, and independent moments, is far more fulfilling and resilient than a rigid need for constant, instant updates. You begin to appreciate the richness of real people, rather than rejecting them for not fitting an impossibly perfect communication mold. Similarly, if you previously manufactured conflict or withdrew when feeling overwhelmed by closeness, you begin to learn to regulate your own internal anxiety. Instead of lashing out when feeling overwhelmed by emotional intimacy during a call, you might use techniques like taking a brief timeout. I'm feeling a bit overwhelmed right now. Can we pause for a minute and come back to this? Or articulating your internal state. I'm feeling a bit triggered right now, and I need a moment to process what you said. You learn to practice active listening when your partner expresses a need rather than immediately defending yourself. This doesn't mean conflict disappears entirely. Healthy long-distance relationships, like all relationships, have disagreements.
but the conflict becomes an opportunity for growth and deeper understanding rather than a self-destructive escape hatch. You learn that navigating discomfort and working through challenges can actually strengthen the bond rather than break it, instilling a profound sense of shared resilience. Critically, your relational blueprints begin to be rewritten. The ingrained belief that distance equals threat, intimacy equals engulfment, or I must earn love through constant reassurance starts to be challenged by lived positive experience. You learn that being authentic doesn't necessarily lead to abandonment, and that healthy interdependence allows for both profound connection and robust individual autonomy, even when separated by continents. You begin to trust yourself to navigate vulnerability and, in turn, trust that some partners are capable of reciprocal care, consistent effort, and deep respect across the miles. This is a monumental shift from a scarcity mindset to one of relational abundance. The tangible shift in resolution and growth becomes evident in several key areas. Internal emotional state. There is a noticeable reduction in the pervasive anxiety surrounding intimacy and distance. You feel more comfortable in your own skin, less compelled to perform or hide, and the ache of loneliness shifts from a desperate void to a quieter space that can be filled by self-connection, fulfilling individual pursuits, or chosen friendships. You develop a stronger sense of self-soothing and emotional resilience. Communication mastery. Your approach to communication becomes more intentional, less frantic, and deeply empathetic. You begin seeking genuine emotional connection over superficial updates, and you communicate your boundaries and needs respectfully from the outset. You become adept at both expressing yourself clearly and truly hearing your partner, navigating potential misunderstandings with grace and clarity. Trust and security. The relationship develops a profound, earned trust. You and your partner rely on consistent reliability and transparent vulnerability, building a bedrock of security that withstands the tests of distance. The fear of the unknown diminishes as you both commit to proactive communication and shared understanding. Relational depth. When you engage in connection, it moves beyond the superficial. There is a greater capacity for authentic emotional sharing, for navigating challenges together constructively, and for building shared experiences rooted in mutual understanding and respect. The previous fizzle-out phase, fueled by unresolved issues or unconscious patterns, is replaced by conscious effort to deepen the bond, making it more robust and meaningful. Empowered partnership. Perhaps the most significant sign of growth is your ability to form truly authentic connections, not just in romantic relationships, but in all areas of life. This means showing up as your true self, accepting imperfections in yourself and others, and fostering relationships based on genuine mutual respect and care, rather than fear, anxiety, or a desperate need for validation. You move from being a passenger in your relational journey to an active, conscious co-creator.
This resolution isn't a final destination of perpetual bliss. Life and relationships will always present challenges, and long distance particularly so. But you are no longer trapped in the patterns of the long-distance dilemma. You have gained the tools, the self-awareness, and the courage to navigate your love threads with greater intention and wisdom, moving towards a future where deep, fulfilling connection is not just a yearning, but a lived reality, even across vast stretches of land or sea. You are now an active participant in your relational destiny, capable of building a bond that transcends miles. The long-distance dilemma is a poignant reflection of the human condition, our profound desire for connection, intertwined with our primal need for protection, made infinitely more complex by geographical separation. We've journeyed through its subtle manifestations, explored its deep psychological roots in communication challenges, trust issues, and amplified attachment styles. We've witnessed the transformative power of self-awareness and charted a clear course for applying practical strategies to rewrite these narratives.
Breaking free from this dilemma is a testament to resilience, a commitment to growth, and an act of profound self-love. It's about recognizing that the obstacles to connection often reside within, not always outside ourselves. It's about dismantling the protective walls that once served us, but now keep us emotionally isolated from the very love we seek. It's about embracing the courage to be vulnerable, the wisdom to choose differently, and the compassion to navigate our own imperfections and those of our partner. Your love threads are waiting to be unraveled with clarity and confidence. The journey to authentic connection, even across miles, begins with understanding yourself, honoring your past, and bravely stepping into a new way of relating, a way that welcomes the very intimacy you were born to experience. The journey away from simply enduring distance to truly thriving within it is a path of profound self-discovery and true relational maturity. It demands that we look beyond the limitations of physical absence and truly see the quiet, consistent acts of love, effort, and vulnerability that build a resilient, fulfilling partnership. It's about understanding that the most powerful connections are often forged not in the pursuit of an elusive, perfect proximity, but in the unwavering presence and genuine appreciation for the rich reality of love found in the here and now, even across time zones. This shift allows for a liberation from the anxieties of what if, opening the door to a more authentic, sustainable, and deeply satisfying experience of connection. The complex tapestry of our modern lives is rich with these profound bonds, waiting to be fully embraced and appreciated. If this deep dive into the true nature of long-distance love resonated with you, and if you're ready to continue unraveling the intricate threads of modern connection, then subscribe to Love Threads. Join our community for more insights, clarity, and a fresh perspective on navigating your own path to meaningful relationships. Don't miss out on future episodes. Hit that subscribe button.